Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Hosts, does your guidebook live up to the quality of your listing? When you share your local recommendations, your guests will enjoy their stay with you and give you a higher rating. You can make beautiful guidebooks at Hostfully. Visit hostfully.com/PAD. You get a special free guidebook consultation exclusive to Get Paid for Your Pad listeners. Welcome everybody to episode 106 of Get Paid for Your Pad. So I'm in Taipei right now, in Taiwan, in Asia, and one of the hosts in my community, in my Airbnb Academy Facebook group, is living here in Taipei. Her name is Angela, and so figured while I'm here, I might as well interview her live. So we're sitting here together now in warm and humid Taipei. And so Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and welcome to Taipei again.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, me and Angela actually met in April when I was here. So we had a coffee and talked about all sorts of things. Of course, Airbnb being one of them. And Angela has done a great job here in Taiwan with her Airbnb. She's recently became a superhost. So, we want to know how you managed to accomplish that.
Sure.
And I think you've also had a few challenges with your Airbnbs as well.
Yes.
So it should be a really interesting talk. So let's start at the beginning. Well, first of all, you are originally from Taiwan, but you were born in New Zealand, correct?
Actually, I was born here in Taipei, and then I went with my family when I was 12 to New Zealand. So I have a slight Kiwi accent, especially when I get a bit nervous, also I'm told. But I spent some time in the US, went to business school there, and went to China. So I've traveled a fair bit.
Right. And when did you settle down here in Taipei?
I came back right after I finished university, my undergrad. That was over 15 years ago. I first came back for a couple of years to just get acclimated to Asia, taught English for a little bit, for 6 months. And then I went back and got some serious jobs. Not that teaching English isn't serious, it was draining, but pretty much went on to have a corporate career, did a stint in consulting and all that, but I really only came back to Taipei about 3 years ago.
Okay. I've noticed out of all the Asian countries where I've been to, the level of English here in Taipei seems to be pretty decent.
Yeah. I think most people here have a pretty solid foundation as far as reading and writing, but they're very typically quite fearful of speaking. And so, if they can be encouraged to talk more, I think, they do speak quite good English.
Right. Yeah. People are a little bit afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's generally the case. And there's tons of English schools, language schools. People go to cram school after their typical school hours here.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. All right. So let's talk about Airbnb. So you started last year in September.
Yeah, pretty much my first listing was around, late August, I think, and early September. Really didn't gain too much traction until earlier this year. I first started, how this all originated was my mother lives in Hengchun, Taiwan, which is pretty much the most southern tip of Taiwan. It's very close to the beach. Year-round, the weather is very, very nice, above 20 degrees Celsius, much hotter in the summer. So it's a very popular vacation place for locals and also mostly Asians visiting Taiwan. Yeah.
Right. And this is on the southern tip of Taiwan.
Yes.
And just for those who don't know this country, it's a fairly small country,
It
right?
is.
So yeah, I think there's a high-speed train going from Taipei in the north all the way to the south.
Yeah, it goes as far as near Kaohsiung, which is the second largest city in Taiwan. Sorry, and I think the whole length is it's only 450 or so kilometers.
Right.
So yeah, but this high-speed train travels at 300 kilometers an hour top speed. So
right.
Yeah.
So it's basically an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah, an hour and a half, but then once you get to the end of the line on the high-speed rail, you have to travel another hour and a half to 2 hours by car to get to the vacation place.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So that's where my mother lives, and she has an old house built in the 70s. That's very typical in Taiwan, where you have a very narrow front and it goes very deep into the land, and so it's about 100. Like her house is about 112 square meters, and it's 2 stories. It's very typical. So the layout is very awkward. And she was the only one living in it, but she can't get up to the second floor because her legs are not working as well as they did before. So I just felt like it was a waste, to have such a nice location, property, but not to do anything with it other than have her situated on the first floor.
All right. And so what made you decide to use Airbnb versus all the other alternatives that are out there?
Yeah. I think what happened was just, sometimes information just comes to you in unexpected ways. So I think I first saw someone's blog post about how he made some money doing this on Airbnb in San Francisco. And then I thought, okay, that's a smart idea. Maybe I can try that. And then just from digging around on the internet, I think I came across your book. And then that's how I sort of started looking into it. And ultimately tried it and had some success with it.
Right. And how did your mom feel about this?
Yeah, that was okay. This is the beginning of the challenge, I think. I basically gutted her place and renovated everything from the very beginning. So I changed the position of the front door and the layout of the second floor, made it more open plan. So everything was a major upheaval. There was a house designer involved and then construction crew. So there was a lot of coordination, and I think as most projects like this go, you often have budget overruns and then unexpected problems come up. We had, bad construction workers. We had, neighbors that were unhappy and just a whole host of problems. So she had to, I guess, adjust and survive all those changes. But I think the end result, I think she couldn't have imagined it, starting out, that it would turn out this way. I think it was a journey that maybe both of us would probably say, let's not bother if we had known what we know now. Yeah.
Right. All the challenges with the renovation.
Yeah, it was the challenges, and then I tried to push the boundaries a bit more. I think I at the same time looked at solar panel installation, which is quite popular now in the States with the likes of Solar City. So I saw that the government was implementing that here. So I thought, okay, that's a good way to generate power and additional income for property. Because the south of Taiwan gets a lot of exposure to sun. So it's actually one of the best places for a solar power generator.
Right.
So just a lot of I think there were a lot of moving parts, and I tried to, get the property in the most, in the best shape that I could. And maybe, in hindsight, I think I overextended, and it would have been possibly better to, get it up and running first more quickly, because renovation took, good part of almost a year from design to actual, the property being ready.
And then so you got your first guests, and how did you set up the management? Because you weren't living there at the time, right? So did your mom manage it? Or?
No, I actually made it. I just really wanted to hit the ball out of the park from the beginning. So I made sure that I was there for every guest that came. Also, as you know, the first few reviews were critical.
Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to babysit and also understand the process of greeting guests and getting it set up, or troubleshooting, and all the review getting stuff associated with being on Airbnb. So for the first 3 months, I would say, we didn't have that many guests, but they tended to come on weekends, and only for, and I had set it to minimum of 2 nights, so that I didn't have to just go down for 1 night stays and so on. So
every time you would have guests, you would go to...
I would travel down by high-speed rail, and then take the 1.5 2-hour bus, and then do that back and forth. And so that took a lot of my time.
It's a good effort there. It's a lot of dedication.
I just felt like, A, I needed to learn the ropes, and then B, I really needed to make sure that this is a successful venture, and it sets my mother up well for, a smooth operation going forward.
Right. And then eventually, after things started going smooth, then your mom took over.
Actually, I realized my mom doesn't really enjoy, or isn't so well suited to greeting guests and dealing with the minutia of, guests saying, I need more clean towels, or, the toilet is a little bit blocked, or these sort of issues. So I started having to think about how to outsource a lot of the things, but most importantly, the cleaning. I think, for us, we've always gotten great feedback from the guests. They look at the house, and immediately the first thing they say is, it's gorgeous. And then second thing they might say is, this is so clean. So we wanted to maintain that standard, but that standard, I think, is quite difficult to achieve with external help, unless you give them really, really good training, or they're really OCD and they just, are very good cleaners.
Yeah.
So we've been in the process of outsourcing cleaning, and I've also outsourced, I've given the meet and greet part of the job to my uncle, who also lives there nearby with my grandmother. So he used to be a car salesman, and so he's very good at dealing with uncertain situations and new people. So he was quite comfortable doing that, and he's doing a really good job at the moment.
Right. And this is something that comes up for a lot of people, I think. How do you manage your listing if you're not around?
Yeah.
And I think one question that people have is, if you recruit a family member to help out, like, do you share the profits with that person, or do you see that as a...
Yeah, it's a difficult one. My plan is 2 phases. The first phase, it was initially getting him used to the idea of helping me host and manage the property this way. So I gave both of us a trial, right? So no commitments, just, hey, uncle, can you help me out? Let's do this and see if it works out, if you enjoy it, if you are able to help me. So he's been doing that for maybe 3 months now, and everything is going well. I think he also enjoys helping and just having a little bit of a bit more things to do and more interactions with people that he wouldn't otherwise have. And I compensate him on a per case basis.
Right.
So yeah, just every stay he'd be there greeting, and then being the contact person if anything comes up, and then he always tries to go and send them off as well at the end of the stay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think that's the first phase, and then the second phase, I think once I can get the operation stabilized and there's good income, I would like to put him on a salary. Right? So if I can, just give him a fixed amount per month, but with maybe some additional bonuses for when we have extra guests.
Yeah.
Or there's something that he has to go over and beyond normal responsibility.
Right, and you would have him organize the cleanings as well, or do you manage that yourself?
Currently, I found and onboarded a very small cleaning company. A lady who used to have very solid experience working for chain hotels, and she came out and started working on her own with ad hoc help from a lot of working holiday people, or people who are here for a short stint of time. So she's doing a really good job, but I would see the need to potentially add 1 or 2 more companies to help out when she's not able to.
Right.
So that's a process that I'm going through at the moment, and eventually I would like to offload that contact and coordination that I'm currently doing onto either my uncle or a housekeeper, someone who's interfacing with everyone on.
A few episodes ago, I spoke with Bruce Bennett, an Airbnb superhost in San Francisco. His listing is in great shape, but he struggled to share all his favorite local San Francisco restaurants with his guests who wanted to live like a local in San Francisco. He told me about Hostfully, a company that is helping Airbnb hosts make beautiful guidebooks. Since then, I've started using Hostfully to make guidebooks for my listing. Check them out at hostfully.com/pad. And what have the experiences been with the guests?
Guests have generally been quite good. I've had good and bad. I'll start with the good, I think, because I'm an optimist. And most of them have been very, very good. I get a lot of mainland tourists and Hong Kong tourists as well. There's been a couple of... When you say
mainland...
Yeah, China, sorry.
Yeah, for some of the listeners might
understand
the situation with China, mainland, Taiwan.
Yes. So they, mainland Chinese tourists like to come to Taiwan for holiday, for eating the foods here, and also a number of them do manage to come down to Kending, Hengchun area for the beaches.
Right.
So we get a lot of those, and I think we offer a different vacation experience. Most of the accommodations tend to be, you get rooms, not the whole house. And so we're offering the whole value proposition is you come here with your family and friends, we hand you the keys, and unless you need anything from us specifically, we're just going to leave you alone. So there's no breakfast, no room service, nothing, right? So yeah, and I think they like that because it affords them a certain level of freedom that they wouldn't otherwise have, because for a long time, Chinese tourists coming to Taiwan actually had to be part of a tour group. They couldn't just go off on their own. But that's been changing over the past few years, and more people are just sort of free. They're free to roam around and have their own itinerary. So we offer our house to these kind of guests.
Right.
So so they generally enjoy that a lot, and we're right outside, about 2 minutes walk from the biggest supermarket there, and so they really enjoy coming and just having a barbecue on the roof or whatever. So that they often say, it's just great to have all that room to chill and relax, and the convenience of being so close to everything they need. So that's the good side. I think they generally enjoy that. I've also had just a couple of guests where they were messy, and I think one I could foresee. There's an annual spring screen, which is kind of like the Woodstock, where people come for music, and there's a fair amount of alcohol consumption, partying. So these Hong Kong guests in their 20s, asked to book 2 nights, and they came, and they were so noisy that the neighbors complained the very next day and said they were going to call the cops on them if they stayed another night. They said that the neighbors said it to the guests and me. So the guests kind of had a fright or a warning of sorts, and so they quietened down the second night, and everything was all right. But they broke a few things. I didn't raise it to Airbnb because the damage was minimal. It would have been only about $30. So I just thought, it's as long as there is no big damage, structural damage to property, I think I can pretty much stomach those things.
Did you charge your guests for the damages?
No, I didn't. I just wanted to get rid of them and just say, don't come back again, right? And I didn't. In the end, I didn't leave them a review, and they didn't leave me one. I think that's always one of the little bit difficult part of the review process. I think people were willing to give a lot of positive feedback if the guests are very pleasant and very tidy. But I think sometimes unless they're terrible, like absolutely terrible, then I think people have this bias against leaving bad reviews.
Right. Yeah, I think it comes from the idea that people think that there's a retaliation factor involved, which is no longer the case, actually, because I think Airbnb recognized this at some point, because back in the day, you could wait for the other person to leave the review first.
Yes.
And then, read that review and then write your own based on what the other person wrote. So, that's why people used to be afraid of that. But then Airbnb recognized that and they changed it. So now when you leave a review, the other person can't actually see it. So you can actually leave an honest review without worrying about any sorts of retaliation.
I think, so they have a 14-day period where you can leave a review. And then once both sides leave their review, it gets both get posted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't get posted until both parties have either left the review or the review window is passed.
And they also give the hosts an opportunity to respond to all of the reviews. So it's quite good in that regard. Yeah. So reviews have generally been positive. I'm currently on 92% 5-star feedback. So but
that's great.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of the reason for getting those reviews has been just, offering a good value stay. So, and making sure that their needs are attended to. And then also, I think, proactively sort of asking for feedback and giving them feedback.
Right. And so you started a second listing in Taipei, and as I understand, one of the reasons you did that was because you wanted to get more stays so that you could actually get that superhost status, right? Yeah,
I narrowly missed out in April of this year. I had 8 stays by then clocked in, and you need 10. So I thought, okay, how am I going to juice this? And I thought, okay, I have a spare bedroom here in Taipei. Let me just do it up and get it ready and run it for a few months and see how it goes. And what ended up happening was Taipei gets a ton more traffic on Airbnb. Immediately, people started booking. Of course, also started with a lower room rate. something like $35 a night. And then at one stage, I think towards the end, a month ago, I was 60, 70, $80 a night. So there was just a lot of interest from tourists, and it was still the mainland Chinese tourists, as well as a few Koreans, a few Malaysians, and so on. But it's a different. Okay, granted, it's also different listing because it's a private room versus an entire home. But Taipei is definitely where more tourists come if they visit Taiwan. So it was quite different.
Yeah, I'm staying in an Airbnb myself right now. I have a bunch of friends in town. I think one person is staying at the W Hotel. And that person has a little bit more money to spend. But all of my other friends, I think there's 8 of us right now here.
Wow.
I mean, all of us staying in Airbnbs.
Yeah.
Because where else would you find accommodation?
Yeah.
Especially in a country where, the local language is somewhat hard to understand for those who don't speak Chinese.
Yes.
So it's like, you can go to some of the other sites like HomeAway and VRBO, but otherwise, like to find something on a local website would be very challenging. I think I've actually looked into it. I've Googled a bit, and I couldn't really find much. So I think Airbnb is probably the number one place to go for people who don't want to stay in hotels.
Yeah.
And you have your listing in English and in Mandarin as well?
The South one, I've translated English into Chinese, and there's two sorts of characters: traditional Chinese and simplified characters for mainland Chinese. So I've tried to do that, but even then, I think a lot of times people don't look at the descriptions very well, and they just sort of rely on the pictures the most.
That's true, yeah. I've realized that too. I started adding a lot of information in the pictures, like with the captions, and you can get pretty creative with the pictures, right? You can put a picture of your guidebook, you can put a picture of former guests, you can put a picture with an arrow of where your house exactly is located, and pictures of all sorts of things to provide more information, because that the people are going to look at those pictures, right? So you could even put up pictures of like past reviews and just anything that will sort of solidify the interest of the guest in your property. It'd be wise to put in the pictures.
I've chatted with a few guests that came to Taipei, actually, because they tended to be more diverse. I've had people from Amsterdam, this lovely couple, and then some mainland tourists, and I would ask them, how did you decide on coming to my room? And they said, first of all, it's the pictures, and then I shortlist maybe a handful, and then I read the descriptions and get a feel. And from reading my descriptions, for example, the lady from Amsterdam said, I just felt like, you would be someone who could help us. Since this is our first time in Taiwan, you could help us, guide us to where we need to go. And so it feels more comfortable that way. And so, just from the tone of the description, they could sense the personality of the host. So some do read the descriptions in detail. I wouldn't say, but I would say most people don't.
Right. And so to finish this interview, let's talk about the legal situation in Taiwan. This is something that's very current in other places around the world. Is there any sorts of regulation here, or is it just a gray zone, or is it totally allowed?
I believe there is a regulation against short-term rentals like this in Taiwan, and even I think there's regulation around what qualifies as B&B, like residential B&B. So it's not a business per se. It's not a registered business. So there is accommodation in the laws here for that sort of operation, but it has to be like 5 rooms or below, and It has to be in a zone where you can do this, meaning residential zone, and just a whole lot of rules around that. And so I would say it's not very rigorously policed right now.
Right.
And if you do get found out, then they slap a fine. But yeah, generally, yeah, it's not very well.
It sounds like there's regulation that technically would make it illegal to do it, but they're not really enforcing it.
Not enforced, yes.
Right, and that's the case in a lot of places.
Yeah, I imagine that'll change. I mean, I think the laws mean well because they try to put in there that you need fire safety approval just to make sure, you know, that the property's up to standard and that there are proper exits in the event of emergencies. But, you know, so many places just don't really follow that, and it's just so loosely interpreted. I think the intention's good, but the execution is less than optimal.
Right. All right. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time to do this interview. Interesting to hear what's going on here in Taiwan with Airbnb and how to set up all your listings.
Yeah, it's a you know, great place, Taiwan. People, I think you know yourself, Jasper. You've met the people here. Everyone's generally very, very friendly and helpful. Sort of often talked about within Taiwan as the Taiwanese way, the hospitality. Just, you know, generally a very civilized, polite place. So also happens to have a lot of interesting food. So if everyone wants to stop by on their way to somewhere in Asia or just make it a trip out here, there's lots to see and lots to do.
Absolutely, I can second that. I would say Taipei is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Asian city by now.
Yeah.
Just you know, like you said, everyone's super friendly. The food is amazing. It's very affordable, but at the same time, it's quite a developed country. So there's good infrastructure.
Yes.
It's not as chaotic as places like Bangkok. Jakarta, Manila, where, you know, the traffic is just insane and you can't go anywhere. It's you know, it's pretty organized, and I mean, I've heard a lot about the other parts of Taiwan outside of Taipei. There's lots of hiking, there's lots of beaches, there's hot springs.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to explore the country. I'm actually, the last week of my trip, I'm actually probably gonna rent a car and just drive around the island. So I'm definitely want to talk to you about you know, some recommendations of where to go.
Come and stay at my place in Hengchun and bring your friends. You know, it's comfortable for 8 to 10 people in the whole
really?
house. Yeah,
that's great.
4 bedrooms. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Right.
Well, let's talk about that after we finish this. So everybody, thanks for listening. And next week we'll be back with another episode. So I'll see you then.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.